All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today. We are here to talk about Remote Work 101, some tips and tricks around COVID-19 preparedness. I'd like to take a moment to welcome you to our webinar and to introduce to you who's on the line with you today. So my name is Stephanie Baskerville. I am the content writer here at ProServe IT, and joining me, we have two of our incredible solutions architects on the line. So Tony Corporaletti is our IT Sherpa, as we call him, and he specializes in unified communications here at ProServe IT. And then we also have Mark Mendez, who is our go-to cybersecurity guru. So any cybersecurity questions typically go to Mark as well. So welcome, guys, and thanks for being on the line with us. I am going to just take a quick moment and urge you that if you do have any questions throughout this webinar, it is more of a Q&A format that we're going with today. So please feel free to utilize that questions tab in the GoToWebinar platform. You'll see it there on your screen, and you can type your questions in throughout the presentation, and I'll be sure to kind of read those questions out as they come in throughout the question and answer sort of portion of this, or throughout the webinar as well. So yeah, use that questions tab as many times as you want. We are here to answer your questions today for sure. Let's talk about remote working 101. And, you know, when government and health officials all across the globe are strongly encouraging, you know, businesses wherever possible to work remotely, you know, or moving to that work from home model for the foreseeable future, it certainly does bring to mind that question, you know, is your organization remote work ready? And that, of course, is what we are trying to help you answer today. And so, Tony, I'm going to turn the mic, so to speak, over to you, and let's try to help our guests answer that question today. So take it away, Tony.
Perfect. Thanks, Steph. Yeah, I think there's been a lot of interest around this lately, and you know, as a ProServe IT, we wanted to take some action and you know, let customers that we're already working with know, you know, we have some options for them. But even more importantly, we thought it was a good idea to put this together today, just to give customers that we may have talked to before, or some that we haven't, an opportunity to ask questions, you know, and hear some of the things from Mark and myself, and even Stephanie, on some of the solutions that are potentially possible for your organization. I mean, you know, there's a number of things that can be done from a work from home scenario. You know, we're a primarily Microsoft shop, so you know, we're talking mostly from the Microsoft standpoint, but there's lots of other options out there as well, you know, being Google and Amazon, etc. But you know, from a Microsoft standpoint, we'll just take you through. We've got a couple slides just to kind of walk through what we call kind of the emergency preparedness kit, almost, so to speak. And then really, we want to just turn this into a Q&A for us to answer your questions, and then, you know, hear some things from us, from Mark and I. So let's move on here. Let's see. You know, I think we've kind of talked about this earlier, but you know, during this, you know, the big question is, can you and your employees stay productive at the very minimum? You know, what are some of the questions to ask? You know, do you have the ability to communicate? You know, we think that having the ability to communicate with your employees, your staff, you know, vendors, and your customers is critical during this time. We want to help you to enable that service, you know, if you're forced to work from home, which a lot of customers are at this time. You know, one of the things that we can take advantage of easily is having audio conferencing capabilities. You know, whether it is you have your own machine at home, or you know, you have some sort of voice service that you can access either through a laptop or desktop, or even your cell phone. But if you're talking from a work capacity, you know, it's ideal if you have some sort of platform that you can use to take conference calls or talk on the phone from a work, you know, like a work given platform, let's say. So audio conferencing is a big one, and then telephony moving forward from there. So again, communication platform. Do you have already a communication platform that you're leveraging today to communicate internally and externally? You know, I know from our standpoint, we're using Microsoft Teams pretty heavily in that fact, and Teams has the ability to do, you know, obviously audio conference calling, its ability to chat between users in your organization and even external. And then obviously it has the telephony component bolted onto it. So it's really kind of an all-in-one solution to be able to work remotely, and that's Microsoft's goal, really. And we'll talk about some of the things that Microsoft is doing to help customers during this time get access to that Teams platform. Again, mass communication tool. We think that Teams is one of those tools. There's obviously others out there, but Teams is a great one that has pretty much all the collaboration features and telephony needs already built into it, as well as being, a secure platform, which is important to, as well. And then, we're going to talk a little bit about today, how do we access documents remotely? There's a lot of customers or companies that are still working off the traditional file server system, and maybe those shared drives or map drives that you have, mapped to your workstations. How do we start to look at, other options, accessing those documents remotely, whether it be, maybe you have access through some sort of VPN, or maybe you're using SharePoint today, or OneDrive, or Dropbox, for that matter. And again, what kind of training plan can you roll out quickly to help your staff to be able to work remotely? So it's important, not only just giving your staff the tools to be able to perform the work they need to do, giving them some sort of like how-tos to be able to use those tools, because those tools are not really effective if nobody knows how to use them. And I guess lastly is, depending on your organization, you may have issued company laptops or desktops or cell phones. How do you plan to roll out this this platform? Is it going to be through a device that you've issued, or are you going to give the employees access to the information from their personal desktop or laptop from home or remotely from wherever? It's a question that I'm sure has come up, and we can talk about that more today as well. So that's it for the PowerPoint deck here. If you haven't taken our 5-minute remote work readiness assessment, I encourage you to do so. And if you have follow-up questions from today's webinar, we're happy to talk to you further. You can always email. I think it's cloud@ProServeIT. Steph, you can correct me if I'm wrong there. With any other specific questions, you'll get in touch with one of our business development managers, and then eventually work with one of us, Mark, myself, or even some of the other solutions architects.
Yeah, of course. Cloud@ProServeIT.com is the email to use. Tony, you were correct in that one. So there we go. Yeah.
So I will leave it, I think, there for this PowerPoint deck, and then let's turn over some questions. I'm sure there's going to be quite a few out there.
Mm-hmm. For sure, yeah. So folks, this is kind of like our, what Tony just showed through was sort of what ProServeIT has developed as our emergency deck, or our emergency kit for companies to kind of start thinking about that remote work preparedness and turning their organization remote capable, I guess, if you will. So, we kind of breezed through it quite quickly and mentioned a few things. Tony, one of the questions that we had originally was that, a lot of the sort of remote working kind of got thrown on a lot of people, and a lot of people weren't quite prepared to shut down their organization or at least shut down their office space. So one of the questions here is what precautions people should be taking if they are signing, using their own personal devices. And actually, this might be a question for Mark as well. Using personal devices to sign into Office 365 or to sign into other sort of sharing, document sharing or document collaboration stuff. And if one of you wanted to maybe address that question first, and then we can build off of that. And again, folks, the chat, the questions tab is open. Please feel free to add those questions in as they come up. But yeah, let's talk about personal devices.
Mark, do you want to? There you go. I can hear you.
Right. So probably the best thing to do is at this point in time is to look at ways to be able to control access to your shared devices. So one of the products that we would normally leverage is Intune. Unfortunately, in today's day and age, as people have been thrusted into this, remote from work from home type policy, a lot of the security policies and procedures that were normally would normally be put in place are not. Mobile devices should be secured. When we start looking at things like, when I classify laptops also as mobile devices, they should be secured. Intellectual property or the use of products such as Dropbox will become prevalent, which means that your intellectual property is now probably leaving your organization's control. So ideally, you would want to be implementing some sort of solution as fast as possible. I hate to be a fear monger, but everything that I'm hearing says this is not going to be a 90-day, and everybody's going to be back to normal. So, giving consideration at this point in time as to how you're going to maintain this segregation or this remote policies or this remote from work from home type solutions will be paramount.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Mark, one of the things that, well, I don't know if this is probably accurate, but I think one of the easiest things that you can probably do and turn on fairly quickly is multi-factor authentication with Office 365 as an example.
MFA would definitely be a great solution for being able to restrict access to for the potential for external entities to be able to access your tenant or to access your environment. MFA greatly reduces that risk. The other concern that I see is there will probably be, and this is my own opinion, a lot more phishing attacks because there's confusion. There's confusion all around, and the bad guys know there's confusion. So this is an excellent time for them to play up on that confusion. So products like Office's Advanced Threat Protection, which helps reduce certain types of attacks, whether it be products or solutions that are designed to infiltrate your environment through phishing attacks. That is something you may want to also look at from a device control standpoint. If you want to be able to now effectively control your devices outside of your office, products such as Intune will greatly help with that. From a technology standpoint, you have the ability to be able to now control your work environment on handheld devices. You have the ability to be able to do things like ensure Windows updates on Windows 10 8.1 devices. Other things like making sure that there's security compliance, encryption, all of that is in place, which is really what working from home and ensuring data integrity is all about.
Yeah, it's going to be. I think these are things. The things that Mark are talking about, most of them, like for example, MFA and ATP, those are really easy and quick to turn on. Some of the other ones, like setting up Windows Intune, depending on how complex it might be with certain policies, might be a little bit more time-consuming to turn on. But those other ones like MFA are really quick turnaround times to get implemented. As we start looking at seeing this work from home scenario, there's going to be a need to start locking down the environment and controlling access to your intellectual property, like Mark said, and how users can access that, what they can do. Are they able to send it out or copy and paste it? There's a ton of different policies that are available within Office 365 itself that can be turned on. So I think we're going to start seeing more and more of that.
Yeah, I think for sure, that That definitely is a concern these days. We just actually wrote a blog about how, we've already seen some threat actors starting to use the COVID-19, updates and things like that to attack people already. So, I mean, it certainly is coming. Phishing attacks are definitely, something that we want to be wary of. And as these two gentlemen have said, of course, that these tools are great ways to assist with that. We have another question similar to security, Mark, about, third-party apps like GoToWebinar, Zoom, whereby, people are saying that they're using Microsoft Teams internally, of course, but then they're getting invited to all of these, as people that don't have Teams are inviting them via these other platforms. They're wondering if there's any concern about being wary of these applications. Is there anything that they should be aware of with using them?
Actually, using the applications themselves, I'll say no. I mean, especially if it's, reputable organizations such as Zoom and GoToWebinar. To me, there's little risk. Where the concern comes in is if you're invited to a meeting, you don't know the source, and you're asked to install an executable, that's a concern. You want to make sure that when you're accepting the invite or you're installing a third-party plugin or application, that it is coming from a trusted source, that you make sure that the executable or what you're installing has been scanned by your antivirus product, and before you actually install it. But the products themselves, they're sound, and there's no concern around that. Ideally, it's always better to send and have them accept than it is to receive in this particular instance.
Mm-hmm.
Good advice. Okay. Tony, we've got a question here from Fern. She's asking, can we use closed captioning with Teams for people who, maybe have hearing aids or things like that, where they're finding it a little difficult to be able to use, the platform and stuff. Is closed captioning available?
I believe closed captioning is available. I actually haven't had experience using it myself, but yeah, I believe closed captioning is available. The other thing, well, yeah, I won't get into that other part, but yes, hopefully that.
Excellent.
Simplified
Okay.
answer, yes.
There we go. So, again, folks, that questions tab is open. You are certainly welcome to ask any questions that you do have. We're on the line and we're here to answer those questions. In the meantime, Tony, maybe we can sort of go back to talking a little bit about document sharing, or how. I mean, I'm sure that that's probably something that's quite prevalent right now, is being able to get people to share the documents, to work on document collaboration, those kind of things, while they are working from home. So maybe we can kind of focus on some of our recommendations around that.
Yes, actually, I think I wanted to run through a couple different scenarios here too, that I've been hearing in the last couple of days from other customers. So one of them, I mean, as we've talked about before, we're primarily Microsoft shop, and we're using the entire Microsoft suite of services, and the big thing for me and for us, Steph can attest, we're using Microsoft Teams pretty heavily at this point. I mean, we've got the Teams voice turned on, full enterprise voice. We're using IM and chat presence. And then thirdly, within Teams, you can do document collaboration, obviously team collaboration, and organizing that. So, what's great is that you can drop documents right into Teams and create different file folders and structures within that. And to add on, what's great is that you have the ability to add your own OneDrive account to the Teams platform as well, and get access to it, as well as even SharePoint document libraries if you guys have already kind of adopted SharePoint. So there's a lot of options within the Teams platform, and it can be easily turned on and start using it. customers that are, if you have an Office 365 subscription, there's a pretty much guarantee that you have Teams, at your disposal to use. So the only thing now is, enabling that for the end users, and then what to give them access to. So there's some quick things that we can do, that we're trying to help customers do to get access to Teams, and even to show them how to set it up properly, organize it, making sure that the users have the correct access to certain things, and who can set up teams and channels, and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, that's one scenario. Second scenario is if you're using Microsoft Azure or some other cloud service platform, right? And you were using it, connecting through the Office. Maybe your organization had a VPN to that cloud platform, but then when you go outside of work, you don't have access to it. So what are some options there? One of the things we've talked about is, if you've heard of Citrix could be an option. The other thing is in Azure, for instance, if you've already got some of your infrastructure up in Azure, what we can do is we can set up what's called like a jump box or a terminal server, where we can give users access to that server, and almost like a virtual desktop, similar to what they may have had on their laptop, their local profile. So now they give them access to a virtual desktop. They can access the company resources from there. Their shared drives and map drives could be all mapped through that location, and it's almost the same experience as they were before. And that's also something that can be implemented in fairly short order, in under a week, let's say, for sure. So there's lots of different options. Hopefully that helps.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, I mean, that was definitely a good way to segue into that. We've got a bunch of questions actually coming in, which is great. I'm happy to see these and happy to be able to sort of help you folks out. One question from Elena is, how do you track time? I know internally, of course, we use ConnectWise to track our time, but is there maybe a way to track time via Teams or via, another maybe third-party app or something like that? Anything that you folks can think of?
I'm sorry, when you say track time, in what way? Like for working on certain projects, or are we talking about?
That's what I'm assuming. Elena, if you wanted to kind of clarify that, I'm assuming though it's like, how do you track your time? The fact that we're obviously not clocking in and out, anymore. We're not in the office space. Maybe, right. How do you kind of see who's working when, maybe projects, like things like that? Is there anything that we can maybe help them out with?
Trying to think of within the Teams platform. I haven't used it for that yet. I haven't actually had that use case personally.
I'm always throwing curveballs at you, Tony. Well, I'm just actually thinking, like, what about integrations with Teams, via like maybe Power Apps or something? Is there something that they could potentially be utilizing with, that integration with Teams? Maybe there's something that we could help them. Actually, maybe this is even a question that we take offline and try to assist Elena personally with this question, but just thought I'd put it out there.
Yeah. So quickly on Power Apps. Power Apps is a powerful is a powerful tool. I don't want to get into it on this one, but yes, I think it's something that Microsoft implemented recently and added it to the Office 365 suite of services, and they can do a lot with it. Creating integrations with Teams or other applications within Office 365. So yes, there's a potential to do that, and we have developers internally that are smart people. And depending on what your business requirements are, there's probably a good chance that we can integrate it with Office 365.
Awesome. This is another question. Howie is asking, we use Teams today, but haven't figured out how more than one person can be in the same Excel file at the same time. Is this even possible? So Tony, I know that we can definitely answer this question for sure.
Yes. So, what's great about even Office 365 and SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, you have that ability to have multiple people collaborating on a single document at one time. So if the document is located within the Office 365 platform, let's say Teams as an example, if it's in one of those like document repositories and both people have access to it, let's say they're both on the same team and can see the same repository, then yes, they should be able to access that document, make changes to it in real time and see those changes.
And Howie, actually, just as a sort of a case in point on that one, just before this webinar, there was about 7 of us in the same Word document working on a statement of work. So, I mean, it is possible to certainly do that. And if you are still finding that you have some questions or that you're not able to have more than one person, reach out to us, cloud@proservit.com, and we can send you some documentation on how to how to make that happen for you, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Another really good question we have here, how do you keep people engaged and happy? Some Teamworks apps or something that could potentially, assist with this. Obviously remote working, we are very social creatures, right? So being able to, keep people engaged and keep people happy through this time might be a very good question to potentially answer.
Keep people happy? Wow, that's that's probably the hardest one of them all. But I think one of the things that we're doing as an organization, our president Eric has implemented something called social time, and we do that every day after work. And anybody who wants to join in, it's basically a standing meeting at 5 p.m. that anybody in the company can join and just talk about anything outside of work. So we try to leave work behind us and then, talk about some of the personal things, one of the things that we're doing. If you're having trouble with something, people are sharing some of their stories that they've come across in the last couple of days, whether it be shopping at the grocery store and the lineups, some funny stories there. And, it's important this time to try to keep, mental health. It's going to be a challenging time for us, but we got to find ways to get through it. So I think the big thing is keeping in communication with others, friends, family, co-workers. And one of the ways to do that easily is through Teams, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure. I mean, yeah, that social hour that we're doing, or social half hour every day that we're doing as a check-in, is happening via Teams, and it's it's a good way you can do obviously video as well as just chatting too. So
Yep.
People can actually see each other face to face, which is a very important part of that social aspect and keeping people engaged and keeping people happy and sort of addressing mental health, which is obviously something that we at ProServe IT are very passionate about as well. So keeping people healthy and happy in every way. But Elena, if you have any other questions about that, you can certainly, again, reach out to us, cloud@proservit.com. We can kind of share some of our tips and tricks on how we're maybe trying to keep people engaged and happy, or at least engaged and healthy during this time. And we can definitely assist you with that. So yeah, for sure. All right, I'm just looking and seeing here if we've got any other questions.
While you're looking for other questions, I wanted to bring up something that Microsoft is doing here, because I said I'd mention it. Microsoft has made a pledge during this time for the COVID-19, is that they're going to give anybody who needs it access to Teams for free. And so that's the Teams, let's say the Teams application. So if you're not using Teams already and you don't have a subscription to Office 365, you can take advantage of this offer. If you're already using Teams today, then you've already got it. It's available to you. It may not be it may not be enabled for the enterprise voice services and audio conferencing, but we can assist you with turning some of those services on. But Microsoft has made it available to anybody who wants to use it for a period of time. It's indefinite at this point. So that should help people to take, to start at least looking at it as an option.
Yeah. And actually, just further to to Elena's previous question here about keeping people engaged, one thing that we're actually kind of doing a lot more of, now is moving to this sort of video meetings as opposed to just using Teams to call people and have a meeting with them. We're actually turning on our video a lot more to, try to engage that connectedness and engage with that face-to-face. That's one of the great things about Teams. I'm sure, there's obviously other, other tools out there that can do similar. Like off the top of my head, I know Workplace from Facebook is another one that potentially does that sort of, video connection, but that's really, really important to have that sort of face-to-face meeting. So, using Teams, using other tools to get that sort of, as Tony and I are doing right now, obviously, with this video, being able to sort of see people makes it a lot easier to just feel a little bit more connected to your workforce, and using those features too. So that's something else. Okay, we've got another question here regarding Teams. Adam is asking, can you call landlines with Teams?
Yes, with an asterisk. Yeah. So yes, you can call a landline with Teams if you have enterprise voice enabled and licensed appropriately through the user account. So yes, Teams is a full-fledged telephony PBX system. So, we're working with a lot of customers these days. I mean, that's pretty much most of my day is spent talking about Microsoft Teams voice and how to either integrate it with the existing phone system that you have, or even just moving away from that phone system to Teams directly. So, yeah, we're at ProServe IT. We are fully Teams telephony now. So all of our phone numbers have been migrated away from our existing or our previous provider, and now we're using the Microsoft calling plans with Teams.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Adam, if you had any other follow-up questions, that certainly you can, again, reach out to us, cloud@proserveit.com, and we can get those questions answered for you, or you can ask them here in the chat platform, and we're happy to sort of answer that or ask that follow-up question for you on your behalf. I'm keeping the line open here a little bit longer, folks. Again, if you do have questions, use that questions tab. We'll be happy to ask them. I'll be happy to read them out for you. Maybe we can also actually, if we kind of go back a little bit, Tony, to the, to the emergency kit that we've put together and talk about that.
Sure.
I think it was a couple slides back, if I remember. There was something I was going to say about it. If you could just kind of go backwards maybe and just sort of let me see here. Oh, yes. The, no, not that one. Go forward. It was something we talked about, audio conferencing. We talked about the training. The training was one thing that I wanted to talk about. Yes. So, a lot of people, I mean, there's a lot of this, a lot of people are kind of scrambling to implement tools, and they're not really always thinking about sort of from the end user perspective. So maybe there's something that we can kind of address regarding the change management or training piece of things. Is there any sort of, I guess, any advice or any best practices that you folks would recommend that these folks try out, or with regard to training?
Yeah, so with training, I mean, with team specific, I'll say that, what we're doing, we have an offer out there at the moment, to help get customers using Microsoft Teams. And one of the things that we have included as part of that is, going through with your admins and showing them some of the best practices in how to enable enable teams. What does it mean from a document library standpoint? Permissions to those document libraries and to those specific teams channels. It's important to set up the Teams platform correctly at the beginning. Otherwise, then if you don't set it up properly at the beginning, and then there what's called sprawl, and we've probably all heard of sprawl at some level in the past. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to avoid, having a messy situation later on where we don't know who's got access to what, who has the ability to set up different teams and channels. We're trying to help you set up the Teams platform in an organized fashion, which sets you up for the future. So yeah, I mean, training around that's training for your IT admins mostly in that process. But when we talk about training for end users, Microsoft has some great content that's out there available to you with your Office 365 subscription. A lot of customers may not know that, but it's available right from the platform and right within the portal there. If you log into the web console, there are how-tos for every single application. So you have access to that right off the bat. Some of the things that we do is we provide maybe how-to documentations or access to quick links like FAQs, things like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And actually, in terms of, if you're looking at specific Teams content, we have actually created a 6-day Teams email course where, once a day we'll email you a lesson on how to use Teams and various points of Teams. It's certainly available on our, and we'll probably, we will include it with our follow-up. We are actually looking at kind of condensing that, given the sort of severity of what's going on, and given the urgency that it's needed, we won't, we're trying to sort of create that into a landing page where you can go and see all 6 lessons at once. We've got some videos that are included in that, just kind of walking you through the Teams platform a little bit more and things like that. And then of course a massive ebook at the end that you can download, and you can actually just kind of read through it, and it's very in depth. So we have that, we have a lot of resources as well for training too, which is something else that I wanted to bring up for sure. Okay, so I am not seeing any new questions coming in at this particular point. I do want to leave the line open for a couple more minutes though, just to see if we do get any more questions in. Maybe at this point, we could, I might be putting you both on the spot here. I'm sorry, guys. But maybe what we could do is we could talk about some next steps, like some first things they can do. Anything that we could sort of assist them with at this point. Anything, any best practices or next steps that you wanted to chat about. Maybe now's the time. I don't know. I don't think we have any slides about this, but
Right.
wanted to.
Sure. So I guess next steps is, as part of this webinar, we've got listed there that survey. If you want to fill out that survey, that'd be great, because that's going to get you in touch with one of our BDMs and inside sales folks. But again, we have a number of offers available for you. But one of the ones we created recently was to address this this coronavirus outbreak, and to help you act quickly. That offer really is, if you have Teams enabled already, great. Secondly is we want to help you turn on the voice component of it. So Teams Enterprise Voice, and then we want to show you how to enable some of the document collaboration and internal collaboration tools within the Teams platform. So we've kind of wrapped this all as a package. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Audio conferencing is part of Teams Voice too, but we've kind of wrapped this all into a packaged offer. For a small fee, we can help you get that stood up in under 3 days, likely to have that. So that's not necessarily like a migration from an existing telephony system, but it's more or less just getting Teams stood up for you, enabled, allowing you guys quick access to be able to communicate internally and externally with, you know, customers, vendors, partners, etc. You know, we're curious to hear from you too, and some of the challenges that you might be having within your own company, because this just hit us all in the last week. So, you know, we're all kind of in the same boat. I reckon each business is different. They're going to have different needs. You guys are, you know, using technology differently. A lot of people are using technology differently than we are. So, you know, we'd love to try and help you through this time.
Yeah, absolutely. We are here to assist in any way. Mark, is there anything sort of from a security aspect that you would think are sort of like next steps or best practices?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of things. First and foremost, you know, as Tony alluded to, almost everybody on this call has a different approach to security, or technology. Some tend to be more security focused first and foremost, some tend to be more technology focused. So depending on your needs, there may be a different approach in time, but ultimately at the end of the day, everybody, or a lot of people, are starting to work from home. The ability to be able to secure what you have in place will become paramount. Obviously, for most organizations, I'm not going to say all, depends on your risk structure, but getting productivity up and moving is probably priority number one, and then followed by security. So under that premise, you also should be thinking about what the effects of enabling a complete work from home environment or remote working environment does to your business, and what exposures are being introduced. Because obviously, eventually, you're going to have to control that. And at the end of the day, we can definitely help you plan that out. And there's various different approaches, but just know that if people are using home PCs or their own personal devices to access your corporate data, and that was not being done before, that there is new risk that's being introduced into your business model. And unfortunately, that's true for everybody at this point in time.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark. Yeah. Yeah, so there, you know, again, we will send out the remote work readiness assessment link for you folks, so that you can actually, you know, if that's something that you wanted to take advantage of, you can certainly do that after our webinar. We'll do that with our follow-up email to all of you. You know, but I mean, we have sent it out a couple times now as well, so you might already have it in your inbox, but we'll just make sure that you did actually receive it. We certainly would, as Tony was saying, you know, we recommend that you take a couple minutes and fill that out for us, and then we can sort of understand a little bit more how to help you guys through this. You know, we are here to assist you, especially during this time. You know, you know, we're all kind of entering uncharted territory here, and we want to make sure that we are providing whatever we can to assist you. You know, getting that up and running as fast as we can, or getting you folks up and running as fast as we can. So certainly, yeah, you know, take that 5-minute remote work readiness assessment. There we go. And, you know, we can reach out to you for sure afterwards, and we can, you know, start working with you to sort of help with your next steps, you know, specifically for you. I think I'm going to actually call that. I'm not seeing any other questions coming in at this time, so I think we will kind of sign off for the moment. Please know though that we will be doing a number of webinars and a number of kind of reach outs on different topics as they sort of come to light. So just, you know, stay tuned, you know, check your emails and things like that. We'll be sending out emails for follow-up webinars or things that might be upcoming, and that we think you might be you know, might be good to know for you folks. So yeah, again, please, you know, check those emails, make sure that you know, you're in touch with us, because we do have you know, a lot of really relevant content with regards to this particular topic, and remote working especially. You know, that's kind of I would say that arguably is one of our specialties. We do a lot of it at our place, so you know, we're certainly capable of helping you with a lot of different content around that stuff. So I'm going to call it today. Tony and Mark, thank you so much, both of you, for your time today and for joining us, and for providing that you know, amazing content that you did provide. Folks, if you do have any follow-up questions, or you know, something that you just didn't get a chance to answer or to ask today, please email us cloud@proservit.com, and we'll be more than happy to address those questions as they come in. You know, but until our next webinar, or until our next time here, I'm going to say have a safe and hopefully healthy time, folks, and we will talk to you sometime soon. So thanks for joining us, and you know, hopefully enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, guys.